first story is from Evan Miller, age 27, and this is what happened to me. I honestly didn't think much about the drive when I started it. At 27, I'd already spent years working construction in Oregon, doing long commutes before sunrise, driving tired, driving angry, driving on autopilot. This trip felt routine. My younger sister had finally decided to leave her boyfriend after things got bad, and I was driving down to California to help her pack and get out fast. I left after work around 6 p.m., still in my boots, figuring I'd drive through the night and crash on her couch. I remember feeling strangely calm at first. The sky faded from orange to black, the radio crackled between stations, and the highway stretched out ahead of me like it always did. I stopped once for gas, once for coffee, and texted my sister to let her know I was on the way. Nothing about that night felt important yet. Around midnight, things changed, though I couldn't have explained how at the time. The road narrowed into long, dark stretches of forest. No streetlights, no houses, just trees pressing in on both sides and the steady hum of my tires on the pavement. That's when I noticed headlights behind me. They weren't close, not tailgating, just there, far enough back to be normal. I didn't even register them as strange until I realized how long they'd been there. 10 minutes passed, then 20, same distance, same position. I slowed down slightly, expecting them to pass. They didn't. They slowed too. That's when I felt the first real knot of unease in my stomach. I told myself not to be stupid. People drive late. People zone out. Still, I sped up just a bit. The headlights stayed locked behind me, like they were attached to my bumper by an invisible chain. I changed lanes. They changed lanes. I took an exit, then merged right back onto the highway a mile later, feeling ridiculous even as I did it. When I checked my mirror, the headlights were still there. At that point, my hands were tight on the wheel and my jaw hurt from clenching it. I hadn't realized I was holding my breath. The forest felt thicker, darker, like it was swallowing the road. No cell service, no radio stations anymore, just static. After almost 40 minutes of this, I convinced myself the only way to break the spiral in my head was to stop. So when I saw a rest stop sign, I took it. The headlights followed me off the highway. The rest stop was small and dead silent. One bathroom building, 2 flickering vending machines, no other cars. As soon as I parked, the other car pulled in behind me and cut its headlights, but the engine stayed running. The low rumble of it vibrated through the air. I didn't get out. I just sat there, staring into my side mirror, heart hammering so hard it felt like it was in my throat. The driver's door of the other car opened slowly. A man stepped out. He looked normal, which somehow made it worse. Mid-40s maybe, clean jacket, jeans, not drunk, not disheveled. He moved casually, like he belonged there, like this was just another stop on his way somewhere. He walked toward my car and stopped just far enough back that I couldn't quite reach him if I tried. He leaned slightly, peering in through my window. He asked if I was okay. Said he'd noticed I'd been swerving a little back there, that he was worried I might be falling asleep at the wheel. His voice was calm, friendly, too measured, like he'd practiced it. I lied immediately and said I was fine, just tired. He smiled. It was quick, tight, and empty. Then he asked where I was headed. Every alarm in my body went off at once. I don't know how to explain it, but I knew answering that question would be a mistake. I gave him a vague answer, said down south, and told him I was going to use the bathroom. He nodded, stepped back, and said, "Yeah, probably a good idea." But he didn't leave. He just stood there, hands in his pockets, watching me, not looking at the bathroom, not looking around, just watching my car.
The silence was unbearable. No insects, no wind, just the hum of his idling engine and my own breathing, loud and shaky. I pretended to look down at my phone, like I was checking messages. My fingers were trembling so badly I could barely hold it. After what felt like forever, I turned the key, threw the car into gear, and pulled out fast, tires crunching against the gravel. I didn't look back until I was already back on the highway. The headlights were there instantly. That's when real fear hit me. Not nervousness, not unease, but the kind of fear that makes your stomach drop and your thoughts scatter. I tried calling my sister. No signal. I tried changing routes, taking random exits, even turning onto smaller roads that didn't make sense. Every time, the headlights followed. At one point, the car pulled up beside me. I kept my eyes forward, terrified that if I looked over, something would lock into my brain forever. After a few seconds, I forced myself to glance sideways. It was him. Same man, same empty smile. He raised one hand and waved, slow and deliberate, like we were old friends. His mouth moved, forming words I couldn't hear. I slammed the gas pedal down. The road curved sharply through the forest, and my tires screamed as I fought to keep control. I didn't care if I crashed. I just wanted distance between me and him. My hands were slick with sweat, my vision tunneling, my chest burning. Eventually, I saw lights ahead. A town. Just a few buildings, but it might as well have been a city. As soon as I passed the first lit storefront, the headlights behind me slowed. When I checked my mirror again, the car had turned off onto a dark side road and vanished, like it had never been there. I drove until sunrise. I didn't stop, I didn't sleep. Every time I saw headlights in my mirror, my heart jumped into my throat. When I finally reached my sister's place, I sat in my car for a long time before getting out, shaking so badly I could barely stand. I never told her what happened. I didn't want to scare her. Even now, years later, I don't drive at night unless I have to. And when I see headlights behind me that don't pass, that stay just a little too long, I feel that same cold fear crawl up my spine. I still don't know what that man wanted, and I don't want to.
The second story is from Maria Lopez, age 34, and this happened when I was driving with my husband. When I was 34, my husband and I were barely holding our marriage together. We weren't screaming at each other anymore, which I thought was progress at the time, but looking back, that silence was worse. We decided to take a road trip from Texas to New Mexico, telling ourselves it would give us space to talk, to reconnect without distractions. No phones, no work, just the road and each other. I remember packing that morning and feeling uneasy for reasons I couldn't explain. I almost suggested we fly instead, but I didn't want to sound dramatic. So we loaded the car and left before sunrise, both of us pretending this was a fresh start. The first day was tolerable. We talked about small things, old memories. There were moments that almost felt normal again. By nightfall, though, we were exhausted. We stopped for dinner, and that's when the arguing crept back in. Nothing explosive, just sharp comments and long silences. When it came time to decide whether to stop at a motel or keep driving, my husband insisted we push through the night and get it over with. I agreed, even though every part of me didn't want to. The road grew emptier the farther we went. By around 2 a.m., the landscape had flattened into endless darkness, broken only by our headlights and the occasional reflective road sign. No towns, no houses, no traffic. It felt like we were driving through a place people forgot existed. That's when we saw the pickup truck. It was parked on the shoulder with its hazard lights blinking slowly, rhythmically.
As we passed, I noticed a woman standing beside it, waving both arms above her head. Her movements were frantic, exaggerated. Instinctively, my stomach dropped.
I told my husband not to stop. I said it immediately, without thinking. Something about the scene felt staged, like it had been waiting for us. He slowed down anyway, saying we couldn't just leave her there in the middle of nowhere. I argued harder than I had all day. I told him it wasn't safe, that it didn't make sense, that we didn't even have cell service. He pulled over anyway. The woman approached the car quickly, too quickly. She was breathing hard, like she'd been running. Up close, I noticed her clothes were dirty, streaked with something dark. She said her truck had died, her phone was dead, and she needed a ride to the next town. Her voice shook just enough to sound convincing. I didn't want her in our car. I said it plainly. My husband hesitated, then unlocked the doors. She got in the back seat. The moment she closed the door, the air felt different, thicker, heavier. She smelled strange, not just sweat or dirt, but something sharp and metallic that made my nose sting. I told myself it was stress, that I was imagining it. For the first few minutes, she didn't say anything. She just sat there, staring straight ahead. Then she started asking questions, casual at first, where we were coming from, where we were going, how long we'd been married. Then the questions shifted. Where were we staying that night? Did anyone know our route? Was anyone expecting us when we arrived? My husband answered vaguely, but I could hear the strain in his voice. He kept glancing at me, then at the rearview mirror. The woman's eyes never blinked. She just watched our reflections. Then she laughed. It wasn't loud. It wasn't sudden. It was soft and slow, like she was amused by a private joke. There was nothing funny about the moment. I turned around to look at her, and that's when I noticed the stains on her sleeves and the dried smears on her hands. I asked if she was hurt. She smiled and said no. That smile was wrong, too wide, too relaxed, like she wasn't pretending anymore. Before I could say anything else, headlights appeared behind us, a pickup truck, same model, same color. It pulled close, flashing its lights repeatedly. My heart started racing. The woman leaned forward between the seats, her breath warm against my neck, and whispered, almost kindly, "You weren't supposed to stop." My husband slammed on the brakes and pulled over hard, gravel spraying beneath the tires. He turned and told her to get out of the car. His voice cracked. She didn't argue. She didn't rush. She just opened the door and stepped out slowly, smoothing her hair like this was all perfectly normal. She walked toward the other truck. The driver's door opened, and someone inside leaned out. I couldn't see their face. The woman said something I couldn't hear, then climbed in. The hazard lights shut off. Both trucks pulled away together and disappeared into the darkness like they had rehearsed it. We sat there in silence for a long time. Neither of us spoke. I realized I was crying only when my chest started to hurt. My husband's hands were shaking so badly he had to grip the steering wheel with both of them. We didn't stop again until morning. We never reported it. We didn't even talk about it afterward. Not really. Some part of us knew that trying to explain it would make it worse, like saying it out loud would make it real in a way we couldn't undo. That road trip didn't fix our marriage, but it did teach me something. There are people out there who rely on kindness, who hunt for it, and sometimes the safest thing you can do is keep driving, no matter how guilty it makes you feel. The third story is from Dylan Carter, age 22, and this happened during my first solo road trip. I was 22 and riding the confidence high that comes right after college when you think you understand the world because you've survived finals and late nights and bad roommates.
I told everyone I was taking a solo road trip before starting my first real job. I framed it like an adventure, like a rite of passage. The truth was simpler. I wanted to prove I could handle being alone. For the first few days, it felt exactly how I'd imagined. Long drives, loud music, stopping wherever I wanted, sleeping when I felt like it. By the fourth night, though, the excitement had worn thin, replaced by exhaustion. I was driving through Utah, miles from anything I recognized, watching the gas gauge drop and the sky go completely black. I didn't want to waste money on a motel, so when I saw a scenic overlook sign, I took it. The turnout was small and isolated, just a stretch of gravel overlooking a dark valley. No other cars, no lights, no sound except the wind. It felt safe enough. I locked the doors, reclined the seat, and tried to sleep. At some point, I drifted off. The knocking pulled me out of sleep slowly, like my brain didn't want to accept it was real. At first, I thought it was part of a dream. Then it came again, slow, deliberate taps against the driver's side window. Not pounding, not frantic, controlled. I froze. I didn't sit up. I didn't open my eyes fully. I kept my breathing shallow, pretending to be asleep. My heart was racing so hard it felt like it might give me away. After a few seconds, I sensed movement outside the car. A shadow blocked out the faint starlight. A man's voice spoke quietly, close to the glass. He asked if I was okay. His tone was calm, almost bored, like he was checking on a parked car out of routine. I didn't respond. The knocking came again, harder this time. I flinched despite myself. The voice asked if I needed help. I shook my head slightly, still pretending to sleep. After a long pause, the shadow moved away. I lay there for a long time, counting my breaths, waiting to hear footsteps retreat. I didn't hear a car start. I didn't hear gravel crunch. That scared me more than anything. Eventually, I forced myself to sit up. That's when I noticed my side mirror had been folded inward. I hadn't touched it. My chest tightened as panic crept in. I scanned the overlook, still empty. No headlights, no people, just darkness. I told myself it was nothing, that maybe I'd bumped it earlier. Still, my hand shook as I started the engine. I didn't leave right away. I don't know why. Maybe denial, maybe fear that moving would draw attention. After a minute, I noticed something pale on the ground near my front tire. I got out. It was a piece of paper, folded neatly, held in place under my windshield wiper. My stomach dropped. I knew I hadn't put it there. I unfolded it with trembling fingers. It read, "You should lock your windows next time." My windows were already locked. I looked around wildly, expecting to see someone standing nearby, watching me read it. There was no one. The overlook was silent, vast, indifferent. That was when the reality hit me. Whoever had knocked knew I was inside. They knew I was pretending to sleep, and they'd been close enough to touch my car without me noticing. I got in and drove. I didn't stop to check directions. I didn't stop for gas. I didn't stop even when my eyes burned and my head pounded. Every pair of headlights behind me sent a surge of panic through my body. Every reflective sign looked like a person standing too close to the road. Hours later, as the sky began to lighten, I finally pulled into a gas station. I went into the bathroom and threw up. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I checked my car over and over, looking for signs of tampering. I didn't find anything, which somehow made it worse. I told myself it was just a weird encounter, a coincidence, but that note proved otherwise. Someone had tested me. Someone had waited to see how I'd react. I never slept in my car again after that night. I cut the trip short and drove straight home. I didn't tell my parents what happened. I didn't want them to worry. but I think about that night more than I'd like to admit. Sometimes when I'm lying in bed and hear a faint sound outside my window, my body reacts before my mind does. My heart races, my muscles tense, because I learned something on that road. Being alone doesn't mean you're unseen. And sometimes the scariest thing isn't what happens, it's knowing how close it came to happening.